So I'm going to move on to introducing Barbara Lancho Barrantes, who will be presenting and helping to facilitate discussion around the topic today. So Barbara is a scientometrician with a PhD in bibliometrics from the University of, I'm sorry, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Barbara, Extremadura, Spain. She currently serves as a senior lecturer in the computing and mathematics subject area at the University of Brighton in the United Kingdom. So we thank her for joining us today. I think it's about 6 p.m. for her there. So she's probably or maybe thinking about just kicking up and relaxing, but we have her here today. So thank you, Barbara. Her primary research focus is on citation analysis, but she also has published on factors influencing research productivity across countries, bibliometric mappings of sustainable development goals, and issues related to questionable publishing practices, which we'll be hearing about today. In addition to her research, Barbara is also a dissertation supervisor at the Information School at the University of Sheffield and chairs the LIS Bibliometrics Committee, which I'm actually part of, and why I know Barbara. And this group organizes the annual International LIS Bibliometrics Conference, which just ran actually in September, and they're starting to plan for next year already. And her work continues to advance the field of bibliometrics and promotes responsible research practice. So I'm going to hand it over to Barbara and mute my...
Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, or whichever part of the world are you. So my name is Barbara Lancho Barrantes. I'm a bibliometrician working as a senior lecturer in data analytics and data science at the University of Brighton in the UK. I'm delighted to be presenting my work, enhancing citation integrity through bibliometrics. The contribution of this research is to demonstrate how we can use bibliometrics method to trace citations to questionable journals. I would like to mention that the issue of questionable journals is very complex, and the purpose of this presentation is not to single out researchers about what they cite or what they publish, but to continue promoting the awareness of this issue so we can keep the conversation going and we can make better decisions on where to publish or where to cite. The rise of digital publishing and open access has provided researchers enormous benefits, for example, to increase research visibility and impact. However, questionable publishing has been an intended consequence of the rise and success of open access publishing based on author-paying business model. The problem goes beyond publishing in questionable journals. Citation contamination happens when researchers cite articles published in questionable journals. Citation contamination is a threat to research integrity, and it can lead to disseminating potentially flawed, fraudulent, or plagiarized research. Results of studies show that researchers are citing articles in questionable journals, and as a result are potentially contributing to the problem of questionable publishing. This study aims to illustrate how researchers who publish in mainstream journals that are included in citation databases cite questionable papers. This presentation will use the term questionable publishing rather than predatory publishing, although predatory publishing seems to be the most accepted and common term to use when referring to this issue. We felt that it's more appropriate to use the word questionable. We acknowledge that not all journals that have been labeled or identified as predatory have predatory practices. Therefore, we felt it was more appropriate to use the less discriminatory and accusatory term questionable. So now, colleagues and scholars, practitioners are naming citations or adding some adjectives to citation. For me, as a bibliometrician, citations are all citations. It depends on the behavior or the people who use citation. But citations are citations, but people like to name them. So we can find in the literature lots of different types of adjectives. For example, coercive citations is an academic publishing practice in which an editor or a scientific or academic journal forces an author to add spurious citation to an article before the journal will agree to publish it. We can find also citation contagion, the citation of articles published in journals, in predatory journals. So we can find honorary citations are excessive citation of the work of another author or a journal, sometimes referred as honorary citations. For example, the editor-in-chief of a journal to which one is submitting a manuscript of a well-known scholar in the field of the researcher. We can find as well citation stacking is an academic fraud wherein journals self-cite articles to boost their impact factor. We can find citation cartels, citation clubs. Citation clubs is something more common, so people are more familiar with the term. It's a club. It's an informal structure in which citations are strategically exchanged among its members to boost the respective citation scores. So we can find over-citations, under-citations, citation bias. I'm not going to define all of them, but it's for you, so we can find even more adjectives than the one that I'm presenting here. It's quite funny see that, but I thought that it was interesting to show you the adjectives. What are the main research questions of this presentation? How many citations included in a citation database are citing questionable journals? What scientific discipline do they belong to? Which countries have the highest concentration of citation to these journals? Do these publications have a high impact? Do they involve international collaborations? So the Directory of Open Access Journal, DOAJ, is highly regarded as one of the most reliable databases of open access journals. We chose the journals excluded from DOAJ in the course of the year 2018 for suspected misconduct from the publisher. In 2018, DOAJ removed a total of 57 journals. The exact time and the specific reason of misconduct was not declared. We examined all 57 journals to select only the journal with unique title and ISSN to make sure none had anonymity problems. Out of 57, only 21 had exclusive titles. We employed the Scopus citation database to examine the number of documents that are still referencing the journal that were eliminated from DOAJ. A total of 15,268 research outputs included in Scopus, articles, reviews, and conference proceedings published from 2018 to 2021 in journal indexing Scopus. These outputs reference our sample of journals removed from DOAJ by suspected editorial misconduct by the publisher. To analyze the citation in more detail, we use the analytical tool Cyber. But what constitutes a questionable journal for DOAJ? When DOAJ removes a journal for suspected editorial misconduct by publisher, this generally refers to questionable practices. However, this can take many forms and be of varying seriousness. It is worth clarifying here that when it removes a journal for journal not adhering to best practice, this usually means that the journal no longer meets DOAJ's essential criteria for inclusion, but there is no suggestion of misconduct. The directory pays special attention to the editorial words. A thorough review of the new application guarantees that no questionable journals are added to the database. If journals that have been included in DOADs appear to show suspicious conduct, they will be reviewed and removed if necessary. DOADs emphasize good research practice and has established a few general criteria that must be fulfilled by a journal to be accepted and included. These criteria include the need of transparent information on the journal processes, policies, and management. Signs that a journal might not be reliable can include inadequate production processes, brief titles, deceived or fabricated metrics, unknown publication location and ownership, and ambiguous information regarding the article processing fees. So after identifying the journal that we wanted to analyze, we employed a citation network. A citation network is formed by connecting research paper as nodes and directing links between them, such as a link from citing paper to a cited paper. So paper included in journals in Scopus in 2018 to 2021, and we apply bibliometric indicators from Cyber. So some results here in the table, you can see an overview of the indicators across the years. The overall score can be split into respective years as demonstrated in the columns. As we can observe in the table, the average of international collaboration is 19.4%. In other words, almost 20% of these publications were produced in collaboration with authors from different countries. 10.3% of them are included in the highest citation percentiles worldwide, and 9.1% of these outputs were published in the top journal percentile, in the 10 top journal percentile. When we look at the data over the years, the publications produced in 2020 are the ones that cited these journals the most, with 5,075 publications. These results show that the output citing the DOADs removed journals didn't have an exceptionally high citation impact according to citation indicators. Nevertheless, there were still over 15,000 outputs citing them in the specific period. Table 2 shows the type of journal citing these publications. The majority were in quartile 2 and quartile 3, according to Cite score, and goal open access publication. Table 3 indicates the author's affiliation countries that reference the sample of journal eliminated from DOADs in 2018. The table represents the citing questionable per publication indicator. We computed this new indicator, and it's a ratio between the total number of publications citing this journal per country compared with the total number of publications of this country. We wanted to see the proportion of publication from a country that are citing these questionable journals. Iraq, Morocco, and Algeria are the countries that cite this journal the most, according to the citing questionable per publication indicator. The figure 1 shows the subject area of the outputs that cite questionable journals. Engineering, computer science, and mathematics are the subject area where the majority of publications cited questionable journals. Medicine is not among the main ones, even though medicine is one of the subject areas that brings together the most significant scientific production worldwide. As a conclusion, as a model of summary, we found that 15,000 approximately outputs published between 2018 and 2021 in Scopus have cited some of these 21 journals. Almost 20% of these publications were produced in collaboration with international countries. 10% of them are included in the highest citation percentiles. 9% of these outputs were published in the top, the 10 top journal percentile, 53% were non-open access journals, demonstrated that it's not just an issue of open access journals. As researchers, we must be aware of any potential citation to questionable journals. Peer reviewers and journal editors play a crucial role in the publishing process by acting as a primary checkpoint in the detection of these issues. However, it's important to note that simply citing a publication in a questionable journal doesn't automatically mean that the citing work is unethical. This research intends to bring visibility to the issue of citing papers from questionable journals. We must use still our judgment to decide which is high quality. So DOAS no longer uses the suspected misconduct from the publisher. I contacted the directory. They said that this is because the statement was leading to complaints from publishers whose journals were removed and some threats of legal action. They decided to start using the more neutral reason of not adhering to the best practice. This also is more in line with their policy of rejection, where they don't make public information on the reason journals are not accepted for inclusion in DOAS. So basically, our sample of journals that originally were classified in suspected misconduct from the publisher now belong to a journal not adhering to best practice, which is a label that is more general. As I said before, doesn't mean that the journals has committed misconduct. So I thought that I could give some recommendation for bibliometric practitioners and librarians in addressing questionable journals, because I think we have a role here and as an expert in bibliometrics and expert in publishing, in literature searching. So definitely we can help researchers and institutions in dealing with these issues. So many academic libraries worldwide are already responding to the issue of questionable publishing by developing services and support tools for researchers. For example, a survey carried out in 2020 found that almost half of the academic libraries in the USA and Canada offer workshops on questionable publishing. In addition, most provide information on library website on how to avoid questionable publisher and identify reputable places to publish. There is also evidence that researchers expect libraries to provide support services to ensure they publish in reputable journals. For example, a questionnaire of researcher issues and support needs around publishing at Taipei Medical University found that 60% of respondents expected that libraries and librarians to provide journal lists of reputable and questionable practices and individual consultation to research and awareness events. So some more actionable recommendations: deliver of clear information on library website about where to publish or where to cite. Provision of training on where to publish and tools available to check the reliability of sources. Promotion of best practice guidelines around publishing. Facility of journal checking services and one-to-one consultations with bibliometric practitioners and librarians and other library staff with expertise in this area. Training on how to use the tools to help identify questionable journals. Academic librarians need to be more actively engaged in spreading the awareness of questionable practices in publication journals and publishers. However, it is not just the responsibility of bibliometric practitioners to support researchers in this area. Publishers and funders also have a responsibility in encouraging researchers to check where they have cited questionable journals. For example, publishers could require authors to confirm that they have checked the citation as part of the article submission process. keep the awareness raising in institution. This practice can enhance awareness of questionable publishing and reduce the citation contamination risk. Now we are dealing with a new ChatGPT and generative AI in academic publishing. So now we're going to maybe see more citation to questionable journals, phantom citations. Citation doesn't exist at all. They are fabricated by ChatGPT. However, I think AI could provide some solution to help detect this citation automatically. So keep the engagement and the guidance. So an active librarian involvement should be more actively involved in promoting the awareness, as I said, offer guidance on navigating the challenge associated with questionable journal and citation issues. So, and also analyze citations. So the Committee on Publishing Ethics, Publication Ethics, CoP, the Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAS, and Open Access Scholarly Publishing Association, WASPA, and the World Association of Medical Editors, WAME, are scholarly organizations that have collaborated to identify principles of transparency and best practices for scholarly publications. Align your advice with these principles. Colleagues responsible for conducting literature searching, literature reviews, face a very challenging tasks because we want to strive for inclusivity in our literature review, in our bibliometric analysis, but maintaining rigor and maintaining reliability. Make sure to review the references that you use for your literature review. Check where the articles have been published. You can use, for example, the Directory of Open Access Journals to cross-check or find out how many references are in DOAS or Web of Science or Scopus. And this way you can maybe reduce the sample and focus on scrutinizing the remaining reference more thoroughly. In the context of generative AI, it's very important to verify the authenticity and credibility of the references, even more by confirming they are actually sourced from legitimate and recognized academic journals. This is essential to ensure the reliability and accuracy of information being cited. We acknowledge that checking individual citation when writing up research or when you are doing a literature review is very time-consuming and it's not an easy process to do, but it's another thing to do for researchers, for librarians. However, we felt that it's vital for researchers to engage with this issue, and bibliometric practitioners, publishers, funders, journals, all have a key role in highlighting and reducing the problem of citing questionable journals. Thank you very much for being here today. It's an absolutely pleasure for me to share my research. Please email me anytime if you want to discuss this research in more detail.